Candid Carver.
Everybody, Candid Carver or Candid with Carver. I asked you guys and gals for a few questions, things that you had going on that you wanted me to answer, and I promised that I'd be as open up with them as possible. This will be unedited, and I have our good friend Akasan here as a little bit of support.
Hi.
Also because just sometimes you might have a question that's like, I kind of want to pair off someone or see what he might think about it, so ask him to join in. This is the first and a potentially new series, so bear with me for the clumsiness that will happen because that comes naturally.
I just wanted to be here for witness the destruction. No, I'm just kidding. Which version?
Pretty much.
Do you prefer like this or like this? Which one's better? You want to get up close in your face like this? I mean, I'm fine with that too, but your choice.
Go back to the other one.
Boom. There you go.
Yeah. Because if I lean back, it's whatever. All right, so
let's see what the good people of the internet. Let's see what
start off.
The internet is always nice and kind and friendly.
Yeah. I've got some questions that seem like they're fairly light, and then I get some that are some humdingers.
Thirst.
All right, let's start with, how do I feel about the Black Lives Matter movement, and where do I stand on segregation for safety?
The fuck? Oops.
Yeah. I mean,
good question. That was
your reaction is pretty much what I'm thinking. So I'll go with the first section of that question first. How do I feel about the Black Lives Matter movement? It's kind of hard to say it as a movement because I think it's something that's always been there, but now people are taking notice because you have more people, more organizations getting involved, and not just in the US, but around the world, which is nice. I do think that some of the pressure and the attention has died down a little bit, especially throughout the news since June, but it hasn't lost its potency and importance.
Still having marches.
Right now, they're still having marches. Still trying to keep them as peaceful as possible, which is always a positive thing because having the marches, protests, and rallies where they're connected to violence never comes out good for anybody. And it just feels like it puts a larger target on people's backs, whether they are involved directly or indirectly.
Okay. Now, what about that segregation one? Yeah, that one. I don't understand that.
Where do I stand on the segregation for safety? I'm not quite sure what they mean by the question, but I think what they're trying to say is if people segregated to certain areas, like they did in Portland, having new communities made or new sections made to where police can't come in, or it does say segregation. I guess one group or another can't go into that area for safety.
Wakanda.
Man, that is a really I'll just put it this way. I wasn't raised the way that some people look at it as like, oh, you should be over here because this is, the blacks only community or the whites only community, things of that nature. Moved around a lot as a kid, internationally, things of that nature, but my parents always raised me to respect and love people as people. Does that mean that I forget my culture or where I came from or lineage, no matter, what country it may have originated from? No, but it definitely does mean that I respect and love people as they are, as opposed to segregating for safety. Segregating for safety, I don't think is a wise idea because that kind of reinstills the fact that we should be separated when we should actually be together.
Right.
Hopefully that answered the question.
Good question.
Ooh, that was
good. That was
heavy. Yeah.
Gonna need a shot.
It gets better. Should statues be destroyed or hidden from people because of what's going on recently? I guess they're talking about statues throughout.
Right, all the
world.
white slave owners getting torn down, like Saddam Hussein.
I would say this. I won't say that they should be torn down per se. What I think should happen is we should have museums made around the world in every country, especially countries that deal with these specific topics, and put the statues, the flags, and things that people agree and disagree with in these museums, so people can actually have them as learning tools. Hey, this is where we came from. This is where we are. This is where we're going or need to go. Because I think that covering it up or pushing it aside is definitely not the right answer, because you can't really hide the truth. The truth comes out eventually. And by doing that, you can be teaching the next generation or 2-3 generations after that how to be better than us, so they can survive, so they can have something after we're no longer here. Because pushing it aside, covering it up, or trying to pretend it didn't happen isn't going to solve the problem at all for anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say like setting them up just like very similar as the Museum of Tolerance, like that.
Yeah,
I remember going there because and that was something like that. But I also do agree with removing those statues. Maybe the method and the way they're being removed.
Yeah. The method's a bit extreme, but removing them from where they're at, I'm fine with. But I don't think they should be melted down and thrown in the garbage, that kind of stuff, because that's also pointless. That doesn't solve anything. Put it in a place, a respectable area like a museum, because that's a place for learning, so people can learn about it. These are the terms and things that were used against whatever the people or persons are at that point in time, listed, why it was made or who funded it, all that information. And this is what we need to take from this. Now, of course, someone's going to say, well, who writes those things? Who writes those things? Well, we vote on many different topics. We have educators and scholars for a reason. Have educators and scholars doing this. That way, those things are done. It's out there, out in the open. And yes, people can, speak openly for it or against it, because that's what makes America and other countries what they are, having a voice.
Cool.
All
For
right.
the American
something lighter.
Okay, lighter. Go.
Whew, much lighter. Would I ever consider being or playing a character for DCEU, animation, MCU, Star Wars? I'm like, did they miss anything?
Basically, just working.
Yeah. Working, but working within the current pop culture population. What I consider it every day. Wake up, go to sleep thinking about it, because it's something that I intend on doing or doing again, so to speak. In small capacities, I've done that, but nothing to the level of the question that's here, as far as like the DCEU or the MCU, Star Wars. But we're working on it. We're actively working on it in many different facets. Here's one. Do I have a favorite cafe or a casual restaurant?
Oh, that's cool.
A left fielder.
Stalkers, though, be careful.
Yeah, I have a few.
Yeah.
Casual restaurants, if it's there was a spot in Harajuku that was close to one of my favorite collectible stores, called like Dale's. Dale's was nice because it was that location they moved to the literally the other side of town. So where they were was perfect, because I would have a meeting, nice little meal. If it was a day where it's like, I feel like having a drink, and have a nice drink. The staff, atmosphere, everything was great. You can run into other people there that you work with, or new faces, people just traveling, but it was out of the way to where it wasn't constantly crowded. but it was in a nice populated area to where they had enough business coming in, so it kept the place open. And then it's like, hey, I feel like going to pick something up from Toy Sapiens, and literally, that's like right around the corner. But they moved, and since they moved, Akasaka.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, that's not convenient anymore. So
because the guy, the owner, also he was like a bike enthusiast or something as well.
So yeah, the owner is not just a bike enthusiast, but he also owns several other businesses throughout Tokyo and Japan. One of them is Justin Davis, which is one of my favorite jewelry companies. I've got pieces from them, and I like it because I could, find something there that stands out, is chic, but it's also cost effective for anybody. You could walk in and find something nice for a nice birthday present, anniversary, whatever, and it works for pretty much whoever's shopping around. But yeah, so there's that. Restaurant wise, I'd say I used to go to Smokehouse a lot. I've actually cut back quite a bit since lockdown for obvious reasons. But, Smokehouse here is by TY Harbor Company, and it's or Tyson and Sons, and it was American barbecue. But what I liked there was their chicken salad, which is bomb. They have a chicken sandwich, also very nice. If you like pork, they have a pulled pork sandwich is really nice, as well as their ribs. Pretty much everything on the menu is good. They even have cornbread, which a lot of places here in Japan, especially Tokyo, do not have. It's really hard to find. It's those little creature comforts, and it's just enough to hit the spot and not feel like I ate too much. So, anyways,
so if you come to Japan, go get American food at Smokehouse.
Yeah, it's like, because that makes so much sense. No, but I have at least once a month I'd go to that place or one of the other spots because I get homesick, so needed something. So anyways, let's move on to the next one. Is it difficult being a celebrity in Japan and not being Japanese? Interesting question. In honesty, depends on the day. Just like any other business, just like any other interaction with people, some days are better than others. You have some days where everything just goes super smooth, no one bothers you, no troubles. And then you have those days where there's just that one person that wants to try you. So it happens. It's part of business, but I don't think it's difficult. I think.
Well, I was going to say the confusion might be most of the time you're not sure if you're getting disrespected because you're a foreigner, or because you're black, or because you are a celebrity.
I'm a black, because I'm a black foreigner that's also a celebrity in Japan. Right. That is true. It is a threefold
really
question
hard
with a threefold answer. Yeah. Some people don't like you because in their eyes you don't belong here. And I may not like the way that they think or feel, but also respect it because that's how they were brought up. That's their country. But it also means I don't have to agree with it. But just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean I have to get in a fist fight with them.
Right. Do you think that there's some? Do you sometimes feel like there's like in America? No. Do you feel like in America, for example, in America, we don't really look at the Verizon guy or the AT&T girl, like essentially commercial actors. We don't put them on the same pedestal as we do movie. We don't even put YouTubers on the same level as commercial actors and such. But do you feel like in Japan there's that same status or situation?
Yeah, and I think it's also because I do television and film. If I were doing just commercials, it might be different. But it's hard to say because since I started, it's been a nice little mix of what I kind of wanted to do and set out to do here. Of course, can always do more, but it's been a nice mix of the three. As far as commercial work here, I think it's also a little different because I've been doing this series with the same company for so long.
right?
Which is also quite unheard of. But what really throws people off is when, you know, they're talking about the commercial #1 commercial talent, and
Right.
you know, as a non-Japanese person that gets voted and also wins, it's a first, and it's something that hasn't happened. Then to be, you know, because not that it matters, but to also be black and get that type of award and accolade, it says a lot, because you know Japan is very open, but there's a lot of things they still don't know about our culture.
Right.
So when they look at me that way and embrace me in their culture, even though I'm not technically part of their culture in that in certain facets, it's a nice feeling.
Would you say
Because
there's a lot of common ground between you and Naomi Osaka, in some sense?
in some sense, yes. And in other ways, definitely not, because
Right.
you know I'm not a professional athlete. Um, but
you are a
you
professional.
know, that
So,
said,
yeah.
yeah, professional. But you know, as far as sports go, no. She has definitely set some new bars and has opened the doors for young women that felt like they didn't have someone that they could look up to, that was either in their age range, demographic, or in their country.
Well, what I was
So
kind of tapping into was more or less of the fact that Japan, on any given day, attempt to claim her as their own.
yeah,
Every once in a while, it's like, oh, when she's winning, she's Japanese. When
yeah,
she's not, okay,
yeah.
you know.
So I'll to tap into that, because now, yeah, you have the situation that happened a while back where you had two companies, but one specifically that had picked her up
Whitewashed her.
for sponsorship.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was horrible.
Yep.
I saw it and I'm like, so who is this character? And I'm thinking, oh, it's just some new anime character. Like, no, that's Naomi Osaka. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, has she seen this? And you know, when she saw it, obviously she wasn't happy. You know, she's happy that she's part of another brand and another company, because that helps strengthen her brand. But at the same time, no, she's not happy with the depiction because it's not her. So it needed to be revamped. It gets pulled. So they come back twofold by having her and then getting Hachimura Yui to kind of back her up and help out. And it's like, oh, now we have two. And it's like, you kind of missed the point. You know, happy that you're picking up people, but I mean, really?
We have Naomi Osaka, John Boyega, a few other situations like that internationally it's happened. Has that happened within your career?
Definitely.
Where situations come up?
Hell yeah. One of the things that John Boyega mentioned is like, we're always sweating, we're always running. And you know, it's something that you don't want to think about, but then when you stop and hear it come out of someone else's mouth, it's like, shit, he's right. Because I can't tell you how many productions I've been on, and I'm not complaining that about the work, but yeah, it's we're always sweating. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a production where
and now we have the man trying to shut down DC Sun. The man is coming in, shutting down DC Sun, guys. He might be back. Okay, they're like, okay, DC Sun, you've talked too much. You've given too much information. I think not. You're coming in and out right now.
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay. Try it again. Let's see what happens.
Still good?
Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part, they for some productions they just add a little too much baby oil and water mixture, so you look damper, and it's frustrating, because like, I didn't do that much in the scene that leads up to it, so why am I just drenched? And it's like, oh, because you need to look like you're, it's like, but that's not what took place in the story. So you have those things, and it's like you got to find a common ground, because otherwise you'll just get frustrated with people who just don't know.
It
or
is
don't
pretty
know better.
It is pretty funny. Even before I met you, personally, I remember I brought this up a few times when I first came to Japan. I was like, yo, why is every Negro out here just being portrayed as like goofy, comedic, stupid, whatever the case may be? And I always thought it was kind of interesting. Like, I was like, okay, well, this dude that's doing these commercials, they always got him basically pretty proper in doing this particular stance that's always never really breaking character. So I always admired that about the SoftBank campaign, that they never really painted you as sort of ignorant outside of your own family. So if there was something that was kind of comedic, your entire family was basically doing it. So it made more sense.
There's been moments.
Yeah, there's been times, but
there have been moments where it's like, but for the most part, yeah, they keep it, or they've kept it tonally across the board, and that's something I actually liked about working with previous directors up until now, because every director has their own vision,
right?
And of course, you got to get it approved or whatever. But for the most part, it's like this works, this doesn't. And when I first started out, it was nice having these challenges of, well, what can he say? Because he speaks no Japanese. So they give me like a stack of dialogue. I'm like, okay, fake it till you break it. So and that was a crash course in learning, because I only spoke about a handful of words when I first got here. So when I got it, it really did help out a lot. One, in understanding, and two, recognition of what's going on throughout the scene. So there's that. And then the idea that we are a normal everyday family that just has unique situations that happen, I actually like that, because like you mentioned, when we come over as non-Japanese or quote unquote foreigners, there's a lot of roles that we get tossed that are somewhat exaggerated. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes off as derogatory depending on what country you come from. And they may not mean it that way, but it comes up and then it has to be addressed and fixed, or you got to bite the bullet and just suck it up and move on.
Yep.
So
cool.
What I consider sorry. Yeah.
Anyways, let's do one more here. Wrap up your segment. Let's go ahead and do one more to wrap up your segment. Go ahead.
Okay. Would I consider a shirtless role? Yeah, I did read that right. What? It's just like, did I read that correctly? Would I consider a shirtless role? Yeah, I would. Have you done a shirtless role before? I've actually gone shirtless a couple times, even for SoftBank. I've gone shirtless, but I don't have a problem with that, as long as there's some prep time before the role, because I don't want to look out of character. But that said, there are a lot more questions, and what we'll do is I will break these up into segments and put the next set in the follow-up. That said, don't be afraid to send in more questions, because I actually want to interact with you more and answer as much as I can. So keep them coming. Cool. DM me on Instagram, or which is Dante Carver Official. My second account is 2DC Sun, but that's mainly for like, odds and ends stuff, weird stuff that, anyways. Or get me on Twitter. Cool. Dante DC Carver.
Well, I'm glad I could help. And see you guys for the next one. Make sure to send those questions in. Peace, everybody.
Much appreciated, bro.
Later.